If you're working on the IB extended essay or supervising one, this video is for you. I work with IB students and teachers, and I've spent over 15 years supporting and supervising extended essays across different subjects. In this video, I'll explain how having genuine interest in your topic, having a focused question, and a good supervisor are the secret ingredients to a successful extended essay. The extended essay is a long, independent research project, and this means that throughout this process, students are going to hit highs and lows. They're going to have moments of progress and moments of doubt. If they are working on a topic that have been pushed through by a teacher or suggested by a parent, they are going to give up the moment a difficulty arises. However, if the students themselves have chosen a topic because they are genuinely interested in it, they are going to keep pushing through those hurdles. They are going to want to read more about the topic. They are going to be interested in continuing their research, in pushing through those rewritings of the sections that don't quite work. So really having genuine interest for your topic, it is not a luxury. It is a complete necessity. A supervisor isn't a policeman. A good supervisor provides support, challenge, and also quality assurance. It is the supervisor's responsibility to use their experience to identify when a research question is too broad or perhaps too narrow or simply unworkable. Their responsibility is also to spot any red flags early. But above all, the supervisor is there to keep the student on track, to challenge their idea so that they can produce a wonderful extended essay project. The student is responsible for the essay, but the supervisor is there to help refine the topic, to sharpen the question, and make sure that the project is feasible within the 4,000 word extension limit. No more, no less. The research question determines the level of success of the extended essay project. If it's too broad or too narrow, the student is doomed. The extended essay project is not a doctoral project, so no one is expected to solve a global injustice, for instance, or to redefine an entire academic field. In 4,000 words, this is just not possible. So a workable research question is specific, it is contained, and realistic. So if a student is interested in, for instance, obesity, the topic is just too broad. So let's start refining it. So not just obesity, but perhaps focusing on children, so child obesity. Another way of focusing even more is thinking of a location, so child obesity in Mexico, for instance. And then if we think of the possible causes of this obesity, which is, for instance, sugary drinks. So now we have the impact of sugary drinks on child obesity in Mexico. And we can even refine it more by saying in the last 50 years. So now we have a much more specific research question, which will create tighter results. So the role of the supervisor in refining and creating manageable research questions is invaluable. A tighter research question will create a tighter essay. Students usually freeze at the introduction, but that's only because it's the wrong place to begin. How can you introduce something you haven't done yet? How can you introduce a project when you don't have any data yet or you haven't done any tests? Although the introduction is the first thing you read, it is actually the last thing you write. What I'm proposing here is that you write your introduction at the same time you write your conclusions. Introductions and conclusions, they are like the bookends of the project, and you only write them once you know the story. A sensible order would be to start with a literature review, reading around the topic, reading around the subject area, finding out who has written about the topic, which theories or findings will be key to your project. Next is data collection or evidence gathering, depending on your research area, as whether it's experiments, texts, surveys, or historical sources. This is where the story starts to emerge. The next step from data collection is to analyze that data, to analyze the evidence and compare your findings with the literature that you have read. And this is the moment where you start looking at the data and questioning, does my data confirm what others found? Does my data contradict those findings? Or can I see that there is a gap, that actually my data is open or a new angle? This is where you start seeing the story of your dissertation, and maybe you will be ready to create some conclusions. And then the conclusions, once you've got them, you will then be in a position to write the introduction and to check if the aims that were set out in the introduction have actually been met in your conclusions. It's important to notice as well that, especially in the science, students may be worried about experiments that do not produce the results that they expected. This is actually quite good, in my opinion. Unexpected results are often more interesting than predictable ones, and it's never about the results. It's always about the process. The key is to be able to interpret them honestly, and also to adjust the project early enough so that it remains coherent. I like to view academic honesty not as some kind of punishment, but seeing it as a form of belonging, and belonging to the academic community. Citing sources shouldn't be seen as just a chore, but it is the way students join the academic community. Research doesn't start from scratch. It's built on the work that other people before us have done. Is built on something that came before the project. So citation is the way we acknowledge that work and the way we show that we are contributing to a wider conversation rather than just pretending to invent it all ourselves. So when a student cite properly, they demonstrate integrity. They also show respect for the work of the people whose ideas shape their own. And this is why it's non-negotiable, because it's the basic rule of the academic game. The extended essay project is not about producing a world-changing breakthrough. It is about learning how to think independently, how to structure a serious investigation, and contribute honestly to knowledge. With real interest, careful supervision, a sharp research question, and disciplined academic habits, students can produce something they are genuinely proud of. If you found this video useful, remember to like it and subscribe to this channel for more guidance on IB teaching and learning. And if you want some useful resources to support your role as an extended essay supervisor or just for your students, you can find 2 useful checklists in the description. See you next time.